Into the heart of danger, Nitish's voice through pirate waters. Will Nitish's courage be enough to face the relentless storms and the looming threat of pirates? Can he survive the challenges of open sea? Listen the full story to find out how Nitish's first voice unfolds and the life-changing lessons he learns along the way. The salty air hits Nitesh's face the moment he stepped onto the dock at Hamria Port, UAE. The colossal shape of Roro ship Nuramun 1 loomed ahead, its worn out hull a testament to years of weathered voyages. This was not just any ship, it was his first step into a life at sea. Nitesh, an 18-year-old boy with wide eyes full of excitement and a heart pounding with both fear and curiosity, was about to begin his career in the Merchant Navy. It was 2013 and this would be his first taste of the ocean's unpredictability. He was accompanied by his batchmate and friend Narman Singh. Knowing Narman was by his side offered a small comfort in the sea of unknown faces and foreign languages. The crew members of the ship were from all corners of the world. Faces he couldn't recognize yet, but there were a few fellow Indians, including the chief officer from Kerala. That too felt like a small victory. Nitesh smiled at the thought of having someone from his homeland in the position of authority. Their first task upon arrival was formal document verification. After completing it, a crew member was assigned to take them to their accommodation. As Nitesh and Narman ascended the narrow metal stairs to the main deck, Nitesh's stomach churned not just from hunger but from the sight of the vast sea stretching out endlessly around him. It was both mesmerizing and terrifying. Once inside, they entered the accommodation through a shortcut from ship kitchen. The cook was busy, the smell of spices filling the air. "You boys hungry?" he asked, without pausing from his task. Nitesh nodded eagerly, his stomach reminding him how long it had been since their last proper meal. "Do you eat non-veg?" the cook asked. "No, only eggs," Nitesh replied. The cook raised an eyebrow. "Why you joined Merchant Navy if you don't eat non-veg? It is the main diet out here." Nitesh was grateful, but when he saw the room, gratitude was last thing on his mind. Cabin was a mess, dirty, unarranged, with the remnants of the previous crew's stay scattered about. Shocked, Nitesh asked the crew member, "Who's supposed to clean this?" The answer was blunt, "You will. It's the same for everyone." Nitesh took a deep breath. This wasn't the glamorous life at sea he had imagined. He and Narman spent the next couple of hours cleaning the room, unpacking their luggage, and settling in. It was exhausting work, especially after a day filled with travel and formalities. But there was no time to dwell on it. Hunger gnawed at them, and soon they found themselves back in the kitchen. "This is the time to eat the makeshift meal the cook had prepared." It wasn't biryani, but it filled the void in Nitesh's stomach. After dinner, they wandered outside onto the deck, standing at the railing and looking out over the harbor. The evening sky was painted in shades of orange and pink, and for a moment, Nitesh felt a sense of peace. The sea, though intimidating, was beautiful. Hamria Port stretched out in the distance, and beyond it, the open sea awaited them. Just as they were about to turn in for the night, they met a well-built crew member doing exercises on the deck. "I am signing off tomorrow," he said, wiping sweat from his brow. "Enjoy your training and the journey. It is tough, but it's worth it. His words echoed in Nitesh's mind as they headed back to their room. There was a call for duty tomorrow at 8 a.m., but now rest was all that mattered. The beds were hard, but after the long day, Nitesh didn't care. He collapsed onto the bunk and drifted into sleep. The next morning came quickly. Nitesh was awoken at 6:30 by a sharp knock on the door. The day had barely begun, and his first full shift awaited him. The chief officer assigned him and Narman to work with the bosun, a grizzled man from Pakistan who, despite his rough exterior, proved to be kind and patient. The bosun showed them how to handle ropes and lashings, essential skills for any deckhand. The work was hard, but Nitesh found himself getting lost in it, learning fast and slowly adjusting to the rhythms of the ship life. But as the hours turned into days, Nitesh noticed something missing. Training on the bridge. For almost a week, they toiled on the deck doing the laborious tasks expected of a cadet, but the call to the bridge, the real training for navigation, hadn't come. Nitesh wondered when his time would come to learn what he was truly here for. And then, after 7 long days, the call finally came. The chief officer was already seated on the bridge when Nitesh arrived, his back straight and his gaze fixed on the vast sea ahead. Nitesh, eager to make a good impression, stood at attention and greeted him respectfully. "Good morning, sir," Nitesh said, keeping his voice steady despite the butterflies in his stomach. The chief officer gave a nod, still seated, his expression calm but commanding. "Good morning, cadet," he replied. "You have been on deck for a week now. Tell me what you have learned." Nitesh took a deep breath before answering. "I have learned how to handle ropes and lashings, sir, and the basics of deck work." The chief officer listened, his eyes not leaving the horizon. When Nitesh finished, the officer spoke again, his voice low and steady. "That's a good start, but now it's time to learn the skills that really matter. The voyage starts in 2 days. Until then, you will be coming to the bridge every day. I want you to learn the basics of steering and navigation. It will make things easier once we start, and you will be more prepared for your watches." Nitesh's heart leaped. This was exactly what he had been waiting for. The chief officer's plan was clear. Before they set sail, Nitesh would spend 2 full days on the bridge, learning from the senior officers and preparing for the moment when he would be responsible for the helm during the voyage. The chief officer continued, "Your focus now should be on absorbing as so much as you can. Pay attention and don't make mistakes." The chief officer's words were brief but weighty. Nitesh left the bridge with a renewed sense of purpose. Over the next 2 days, he shadowed the senior officer, learning the intricacies of ship handling. The senior was patient but firm, explaining each detail of steering and navigation. Nitesh watched intently as the senior demonstrated how to control the ship's rudder, adjust for the wind and currents, and maintain a steady course. Each lesson brought Nitesh closer to the dream he had been chasing. Finally, the day arrived for their voyage. The Nuramun 1, a roll-on, roll-off, ro-ro and cargo ship, was scheduled to set sail from Hamria Port, United Arab Emirates at 8 a.m., bound for Djibouti, located in the Horn of Africa. This route was known to be one of the most dangerous due to the looming threat of Somali pirates. However, Nitesh was unaware of risks. No one had briefed him about the perilous stretch of the journey. Nitesh's watch was divided into two shifts, one from 12 noon to 4 pm and other from midnight to 4 am, with an additional 2 hours deck work, totaling 10 hours of work in a 24-hour period. The thought of being responsible for steering the ship across the open sea filled him with excitement. As the ship departed, the morning sun shimmered on the water, and Nitesh took his position on the bridge, standing attentively and absorbing the atmosphere. The first part of his watch was steering under the senior's watchful eye. The sea was calm and the weather conditions were favorable. Nitesh felt a sense of pride as he skillfully maneuvered the ship, gaining confidence with each passing moment. He was finally living his dream and felt grateful for the path he had chosen. After a productive first watch, Nitesh concluded his shift and headed to the kitchen for evening breakfast, can also say dinner. Exhaustion settled in as he ate, but he couldn't shake the excitement of what awaited him. Soon it would be time to rest before his next watch. He fell into bed, sleep enveloping him quickly after a long day of learning and work. However, his rest was short-lived. At 11:45 pm, a crew member knocked on his door, calling him to wake up and prepare for the bridge watch. Rubbing the sleep from his eyes, Nitesh reluctantly climbed out of bed, feeling the fatigue in his bones. It had only been about 6 hours since he last slept, but the thrill of what awaited him kept his spirits high. He donned his uniform once more and headed up the narrow stairs to the bridge. Nitesh took a deep breath, ready to resume his duties. He focused on the task at hand, listening intently to the senior's instructions. But just as he began to settle in, a sudden jolt set him reeling, catching him completely off guard. What happened suddenly? How will Nitesh face the challenge in the middle of ocean? To find out, subscribe to Devotee Hitesh YouTube channel and stay tuned for the next part of Nitesh's thrilling journey. Stay tuned for part 2, The Storm at Sea and Nitesh's first challenge.